out of 3.7 trillion budget, 630 billion is going to the education of the Kenyan children. 45,000 students in Kenya, in 1 year only, will be joining universities. Some have already joined without paying a single shilling.
No officer serves in one station for more than 3 years. And that after 3 years and going into the future, it will not be possible for anybody to be promoted if they have served only in one station. Na nimeamrisha bodi ya KFS, hawa wote waliopatikana aidha wakizembea ama wakijihusisha na ufisadi ama wakichangia kuharibika kwa misitu yetu, wote waondolewe kazini na wapelekwe kotini. Wamepatikana tayari forest managers and forest rangers 23.
We have reserved the deployment of officers in complicated security operations, those that involve the fight against terror, bandits, and other dangerous criminals, to elite units within the National Police Service. So it's not about age of the officer. I have committed on behalf of government that we shall go out of our way to minimize casualties on our side.
Wakora tumewatoa kule Baringo, tumewatoa kule Elgeyo Marakwet. Tunasikia wakora hawa wamehamia hapa Turkana. Hawa wakora wote, mimi nataka muambie rais amesema mambo yao ni matatu. International Police Reserve. Tumekubaliana ya kwamba sub-county ya pale Suguta, sub-county ya Aro na sub-county ya Lokiriama. Hizo sub-counties 3 wameniuliza wanataka zianzishwe, na tayari mimi nataka niwaambie watu wa hapa county ya Turkana ya kwamba ndani ya siku 90 days, all those 3 sub-counties will be operational. The moment I know more than you in your ministry, then you must begin to understand that something is very wrong.
Wale wanasherekea ati mimi nilitolewa kwa hii wizara. Within 6 months, wataanza kwenda kwa rais kumwambia, "Ai, amezidi sana, mtoe hapa tena." They will be asking for another reshuffle in 6 months time. Wallahi, I promise you.
If you serve the people of Kenya, those are your bosses, they are your employers. Dignify them by the way you address them. Even when there are challenges, remain calm and steady.
Kama mtu hafai ama hajui kazi yake ya utenda kazi ya uwaziri, basi hata ukimpeleka katika ofisi nyingine ataharibu.
Kama ulikuwa unasubuliwa na mimi nilikuwa na wizara kamoja, sebuze saa hii mimi na coordinate wizara zote 22.
Sasa ni kuchukua ubovu kutoka hapa kupeleka ubovu huu katika wizara fulani. Utoe ubovu wa wizara hii ulete katika wizara hii. Hujafanya kitu.
It's been a marathon 11 months. A lot of work. We had to build the ceiling. At the same time, we are digging the foundation. And I hope that the team, CS is coming in at a time where the foundation was almost complete. And I have got every confidence and trust that they'll be able to take it from there.
The way I see trade, the way I see investments and even industries, it is a growth pillar of this country. And therefore, I will come in with the best foot forward, with the energy required, with the managerial skills.
Let me just say that it is important for all our partners to respect that Kenya is a sovereign country. Kenya makes decisions based on our interest, and we are not here to do a catwalk for anyone.
It is primitive and backwards for anybody to imagine that any region of Kenya cannot get development on account of how they voted.
Wewe rais enda msituni, utafute huko ile watu walipotea mizio ile yote unaweza lete, chukua, tafuta na ukaunganisha Kenya, na kwa sababu hao wanalipa kodi uwafanyie kazi. Lakini ngome lako la Mount Kenya na Rift Valley ikuwe inachungwa.
Wale ambao wanasema ati watu waangaliwe na macho mengine tofauti, it is not right. When elections come, we wear our jerseys. Wewe unavaa jezi yako ya Arsenal, wewe unavaa Man U, mimi ni mtu wa AFC Leopards. tunapelekana, ikiisha tunarudi kufanyia wananchi kazi for 4 years, for 5 years.
Wananikashifu mimi ya kwamba ninakumbusha rais ya kwamba hata tukipeana kazi tukumbuke zaidi wale walisimama na sisi.
There are some people who are agitating for the mountains isolation, zoning the mountain which is part of this country and wanting the mountain to speak on itself is actually very primitive and backward.
Without peace, it doesn't matter who you are, where you live, how you live, which tribe you speak.
Kenya is one nation, and I'm here to preach unity so that everybody in Kenya, unless the constitution says otherwise, everyone in Kenya has a leave to remain in this country as per our constitution.
Wafikirie Kenya kwanza in their heads so that we can have peace.
No Kenyan should be made to feel guilty for the political decisions they make.
Nafasi ya kazi ikipatikana, kwanza tuangalie wale ambaye tunaamini na walitupenda na tulikuwa na tabia nao pamoja.
Every time I have heard regarding the deputy president make that statement, me I understand what he's saying. He's not saying that all Kenyans don't deserve services. He's saying we will give all Kenyan services, but the determination, the people who run the structure that gives all Kenyan services, 47% of that structure is us.
Kwa hivyo wale wanataka kuchochea kuleta uhasama between the deputy president and our president, nataka niwaombe tuache hiyo barabara. Mimi I was a speaker in the Senate wakati hii maneno ilikuja. It made my work very difficult trying to balance.
There will be no division in this government. President William Ruto and I talk the same language. We consult, we agree, and we move on. And the president is taking us to the right place.
All right, Gachagua, man under pressure, battle for the mountain. That is what is on the front page of the People Daily today. And the soapbox just gives you a roundup of how the week has been and also the weekend, just the political tone and tenor of the country where we are at right now. We're still broaching the issue of GMOs and also the pronouncement from the court regarding the logging ban. And we just wanted to wind up on that as well. From that particular soapbox, you had also the president talking about Mambo ni Matatu. I just wanted to scroll over to this particular headline that was there yesterday. Mambo ni Matatu ni haramu, right? Now that if you're going to be using that particular Mambo ni Matatu coinage by the president, it's trademarked, right? There, the president now will actually sue you if you don't seek his clearance to use Mambo ni Matatu, right? Is now the preserve for the president. That is the latest development. But still, we want to look at what is happening. Also, the hard questions in Telkom Kenya cell is what we are going still to follow up. There is also an intelligence, just our opinion there in the Business Daily regarding the sale of Telkom Kenya to ICA in Emirati, where Jenny Kisero is saying MPs should not give approval for that particular sale as well. Africa on Gaza is another thing that we shall be looking at, and you can see there Museveni, Samia, amongst others as well, sitting on the fence. Yet Kenya, we've taken a stand, and also we have Congo, DRC Congo there, which has taken a stand in supporting, and Burundi in supporting Israel on this particular regard. GMO is what we promised to circle back with the latest pronouncements also from the courts as well. And none other that fits snugly to take us through that, who has seen the history of GMOs since his tenure as the Minister of Agriculture, Kipruto Arap Kirwa. So what do you make of these pronouncements from the court with the green light that has been, of course, set forth?
Yeah, thank you, Dibal, for the opportunity. Let's go back. We cannot all the time oppose any scientific innovation, but it is good for people to understand that even some of the countries promoting GMO, they themselves do not consume wholesale. And even some of the lands that they plant GMO crops, they are left to rest for a certain period to get fallow before they plant normal crops. The second issue is that they also label them very well. Now we've been dealing with a lot of illicit products in our market, either imported or produced here in Kenya, And it seems the regime that we have is totally incapable of reining in bad manners in that particular industry. My worry is that GMO, from the definition, a genetically modified organism, means there is some kind of engineering that you infuse into a gene to make it different from the original natural growth. And this therefore means you create a situation where the natural growth is interfered with, and certain unnatural effects will be precipitated by the organism itself. And those who deal with nutrition, they tell us you are what you eat. Therefore, if you are consuming what has already been engineered to have unnatural growth, you are likely, or you are susceptible also to altering your own genetic makeup. Fast forward, when I was in the ministry and the president gave me that privilege, we agreed in Kari that, or what they call now Calro, that we must have certain specific steps to be followed and trials to be done until our own scientists are able to prove that there is no harm to this. The fact that they have not created linkage, although there is a lot of scientific information, which for the sake of time, let me not go there. They have not obviated the negative effects of GMO. And we are saying because nobody has reported cases that have been adverse in terms of when you consume GMO, therefore we safely say it is okay until we discover that. That is where the fallacy is, and that is where I feel it is the lazy option. Why do I call it the lazy option? Professor Kiumbu Dhairu, in a report that he presented to the Minister for Health at that time, I think it should be Macharia or one of them, was very specific on what steps to follow. One, how do we harvest our own indigenous crops? How do we improve our market sustainability? How do we improve water usage? How do we improve the surveillance system? You know, some of the officers in various ministries, including those in charge of detecting the GMO entry into the market, they will say they have already systems in place. But how much do we get from Uganda without those systems being put in place? My worry, and this is, well, the court ruling is not really a blanket ticket that GMO should be done. What we need to do is the administration of the day should be careful so that we don't open floodgates for GMO to get into this country and destroy the indigenous crops that we have. We have already done a lot of scientific research, and we can have enough food produced if we put proper systems in place without the importation of GMO. That's the little I can say. But what I can finally say, my good brother President Ruto chaired a cabinet that he had not appointed. It was Uhuru's cabinet that okayed or unbanned the GMO. Why was he so much in a rush instead of waiting for his own cabinet? Because today, if we were to really sue the state, is it the cabinet of Uhuru that we are going to sue, or are we going to sue President William Ruto personally? These are some of the things that make me get suspicious. Why was he so much in a hurry to chair Uhuru's cabinet without waiting for just 2 months to chair his own cabinet to unban the banning of GMO?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Let's hear from Professor Lieutenant Naituli.
The GMO debate, you just have to go to the West and understand what it is here. Because in the US, the labeling in the supermarket is so clear. You make no mistake about the labeling. We don't have that capacity here. The other day, KEBS agreeing that is totally unable to protect us. Okay? In Europe, I think KEBS. KEBS said there's areas why they cannot protect us. I think that was all over these papers.
Which areas are maybe a
and they are the ones who are supposed actually to protect us. You remember KEBS at one time they said that they are not, the things are coming in here that sometimes they are unable to control.
In the Porter's
They admitted that, yes. So what I'm saying now is the GMO, why those people label? Because they have serious side effects. These are modified organisms. That is why most European countries, they're actually bad. But this is how they work. The GMO, Monsanto, DuPont, these American companies, they actually work like drug dealers, the drug barons, the way they work. They support political process. They put the people into office with the intention of using them to advance their cause, which is okay because they need their cause advanced, but it's people who need to understand that's what they can protect themselves. The danger here, because in the US, they isolate farms where GMO crops are being planted to make sure that they don't interfere with the seed basket of the country. Because once they interfere, because once they interfere, then you become a slave of the GMO companies, of the multinationals, which are of the GMO. Here, it will not be very clever to expect that we will actually isolate where we grow these GMOs to avoid them contaminating our seed basket. So within 5, 6, 10 years, you may actually be a slave of Monsanto, slave of DuPont, slave of the country that produces this thing. I think we have rushed this process, and I'm not sure if it will serve the people of Kenya.
Professor Gindiki, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the intention here behind importation of GMO is the whole answer to the debate. Because if it's coming to solve a problem which maybe is there and we as Kenyans can't solve, then it can be allowed with some limitations. But I think we have adequate systems in this country and adequate departments and organs of the government that can deal with food production and food security in the country without necessarily allowing GMO importation in the country. But you see, people have interests, and maybe people behind the whole process of importation and all that, maybe they want to get something out of it. And if that is the case, then it will be very bad for Kenyans and for Kenya as a country. So my take is that we need to interrogate this process a little further than that, even if there are declarations that have been made elsewhere, because my take is that importation of GMO will drastically affect the food security and production in this country, because at the end of it, the corruptive systems will just find its way into our food production processes, and therefore it will interfere with all the gains that we have gained since independence and since before and after independence at the current situation. So I think the interest of some people, some maybe it could be politicians, could be businessmen, that if it carries the day on why we should import the GMO and allow it to happen in this country, then that will be devised to the whole system, and it may affect our food production and food security in this country. So I think the individual interest or personal interest should not feature in the whole process, unless really there is a crisis, which I don't see it in this country, because we can improve what we have to reach where we want to go. But people will be very slow in improving our systems that deal with food production and food security just for their own interest. And I think those who are making decisions at that level, that should be checked so that it does not affect our food production systems in this country.
And of course, the argument has always been, well, GMO is with us. We already buying things from our supermarkets that are, they are genetically modified organisms. The apples that we eat, that they're just extra large or supernormally large at the end of the day. But I think we need to interrogate when we have such kind of an argument that we have GMOs still on our table, and as you said, in very strict jurisdiction, the government will have been sued. if we have GMOs on our table and we are not aware about it, that we're buying it from our supermarkets as it is, if we are really strict as Kenyans, then we should make sure that, yes, some of these things that you're saying that are genetically modified, they have the labels that this particular sector of a supermarket, this is a genetically modified organism products. Just beware as you're buying, yes, that they've been modified at the end of the day. So the fact that the court is giving a green light and is still in the market as well is something that we need to interrogate and find out moving forward. First of all, do we need such the GMOs in the country? Because we have enough arable land to make sure that we can actually till the land and have the requisite food that we do need. If we mobilize our resources and try and make sure this land, they're exceedingly beneficial for Kenyans. I wanted just to hear from Dr. Kalua briefly, because I think we have mixed priorities as a country, if you may ask. If we go to Turkana, the whole entire acreage of Turkana, I don't know the soil profiling of Turkana, but at least something can grow from there. People argue that there is no water, and we've always argued on this particular panel that the government has identified the aquifer there that can feed the country for the next 72 good years. The always big debate is, oh, this is not potable water, it is salinated. But can we now forget about the oil in Turkana? If it cannot be hugely commercialized to benefit the country, and focus on water and feed ourselves first of all, then we go back to the oil. Even the water will actually give us good resources on how we can extract this oil at the end of the day. I don't know what you will make out of that.
Debal, the 3 letters GMO, very easy, sounding very simple, associated with a lot of science, and we have enough scientists in this country, and the globe has really evolved.
We have the National Biosafety Authority as well.
Yes, all this. It may sound very easy, but the story of GMO is mostly allied to the seed and seed production, and this is the space for the high and mighty. Very successful business people, they are only in very high places some of the times, and they do genuine business, genuine farming. The only thing is that the association and the fact that they are who they are then starts to create a cloud of confusion. What is in the story behind this entire thing? Our former president is a very good farmer. And if you knew and if you know former President Uhuru Kenyatta, you know that he loves farming and he loves agribusiness. And for that matter, he was the biggest, and he still remains the biggest producer of seeds in this country, far beyond Kenya Seed and all these other institutions. And in the same way, the high and mighty, without mentioning names, are in that space. That's one. And therefore, and I remember just very recently, I had to have a very candid talk with one of the media houses. Very candid. Because they have been paid by seed companies to advertise and to make things look so great and so nice for the farmer, to the point that the farmer is made to believe that this chemical is the best, this seed is the best, nothing else is better than this other, at the point where media houses are supposed to be guiding people. We are a country, and I am talking this positively to support what we must be able to do. KEFIS, Kenya Plant Health Safety needs to be supported and be funded properly if we are getting into this space. Those people need to be given everything that they need, everything. They need to be allowed to make money. I hope they do.
The ones selling GMO.
Okay? And they need to be guided in the best way possible so that that support is informed. When we talk about GMO, you're talking of KEFIS. You're talking of institutions that are supposed to protect us. They need to have sufficient so that there is no space, there is no loophole, including labeling. which we say that is a requirement. And I'm surprised to hear that KEB said that they can't be able to control. And you can imagine, these are some of the things that I was talking earlier on, Debal. You say you want to produce leather, you want to do it locally, and then young traders, SMEs, come and say we have shoes that have been imported and they are stuck at the port, and therefore the law must be changed so that those can come in, instead of pushing through as per the policy. These are the challenges that we are having as a nation. Now that things are as they are, and GMO is here with us, we need to ask ourselves a number of questions which are going to help us. Do we have a shortfall of food production? Yes, we do. Is there a way that we can produce seed and be able to produce food efficiently? Yes, we can. Can this food and the seeds that we are producing be biofortified so that they can protect the environment? Yes. Can they be engineered so that the farmers can have more income instead of us importing more foods and dealing with issues that the way that we are dealing with? Are these things able to improve our scientific processes in our country? These are things that we can be able to deal with, but we can never deal with GMO, as it were. And those who are producing seed must be supported, must be given, it doesn't matter who they are, because that needs to be done. Instead of politicizing so that, oh, this one is doing potato seed and therefore that is their space, this one is doing maize, this one is doing cabbages, this one is doing... It needs to be open so that it is guided by the principles of scientific nature, ensuring that the environment is safe and that we have no manipulation. You can imagine how much people would live in fear when we don't know what kind of seed is coming, when the food that we are having is not labeled, when we are dealing with people who are not to be trusted. These are the things that we need to deal with as it is right now. There is nothing wrong in approaching issues in a scientific way, accommodating the fears that we must have as a country, and be able to deal with things right.
Right, thank you. I think we need to wind it up unless we have anything else on the...
First, I think there are distinctions need to be made here. And I think this judge should, honestly, even though the law requires that who alleges proofs, he should have asked the government was changed, because the same government which banned the thing is the same government in our opening. He should have wanted to know that before opening it up. Number two, we need to make a distinction between plant breeding and GMO. What people say here that we have been having in GMO, we have been having crops arising out of the plant breeding, not breeding genetically. Because if that is true, then the government has been unable to enforce its own ban. So you see, when you are not accurate, you confuse yourself in your inaccuracy. Because if it's true we have been having in GMO, then what was the ban for? It simply means the government was unable to protect us. And that, we don't want to think that is true. Because then what else is the government giving us, which they are saying that we should not have?
Thank you.
So, you know, Professor is a victim of government propaganda. All those people who are saying that we have already consumed the GMO.
That's what I'm saying.
They were doing it just to fortify the argument.
Exactly.
And to weaken our case against us embracing something without necessarily
that already is in the public domain, and
yes,
there's no effect at all that is being realized.
So that's what I call lazy option. But the more important thing is that even today, this 4,000 per bag, 90 kilogram bag, is not an answer to the problem that will be precipitated by El Nino. There is what we call post-harvest challenges. The government should be spending more time about that than thinking about GMO, because post-harvest challenges reduce capacity for this country to produce food, because producing without storing is a sign of not having capacity to take care of yourself.
Right. Okay, I wanted just to take our conversation just deeply on what has been happening, especially with Telkom Kenya This one will be harping on it until we find out the answers, and the privatization bill. Hard questions still linger as far as Telkom Kenya cell is concerned. I know we broached this issue. And looking at today's also Business Daily, we have Jaindi who has actually given an opinion there, and is asking MPs to reject Telkom Kenya cell. He says, we must demand details, if we may just pick it up, on all approvals, due diligence reports, independence valuations on the transaction. And he says, we are all still waiting for the transaction details and terms under which the Kenya government plans to bring in a Dubai-based entity by the name of Infrastructure Corporation of Africa, ICA, to acquire 60% stake in Telkom Kenya. So far, the details provided are scanty. This deal was concluded and money is paid to Helios of the UK by the administration of former President Uhuru Kenyatta just weeks before the current administration was sworn in. We're now told that sometime last year, the administration of President William Ruto decided to amend the transaction so as to have another private investor to come into the picture. We're told that a competitive process to identify a new investor was set in motion in January this year, resulting in an evaluation process that recommended the Dubai entity to be the new majority shareholder. We are also told that the Dubai company has committed to inject new capital and to implement an upgrade of the company's capabilities. We must demand details on all approvals, due diligence reports, independence valuations. Of course, you can read the rest of the details in the Business Daily as well. But pertinent questions are being raised here regarding the sale of Telkom Kenya. And we can just also try and put this together with the issue of privatization bill. Let's begin with you, Professor Gitina Natuma.
Yes, I think the author of that article.
This is Jaindi Kisero.
To familiarize himself with the privatization bill, because it's not a bill, it's actually a law.
It's an act right now.
It's an act of parliament. Because you want the parliament to scrutinize, but parliament has already removed itself from that process, which I don't know if my reading of the constitution is right. I'm not sure if the parliament can surrender its oversight mandate to the executive, because this is what just happened here.
But this is still in the constitution, so where will does the bill override the constitution?
Exactly, that's exactly what I'm saying. If my reading of the constitution is accurate, I don't know. I think maybe there is an opportunity here for the civil society to get the court to pronounce itself on that, whether some mandate appropriated by the people of Kenya through the constitution to parliament, whether parliament can surrender that. But that's a very bad sign, if you ask me. I don't know why anyone wants to remove oversight. If your intention is to do something according to Article 10, transparently, why would you bother who is doing the oversight, since you want transparency? So there is something cooking here. You know, in business, there's something we call asset stripping of an organization. You can have an organization, but it's a shell, because you have stripped the asset and sold them out. So it appears to me this is asset stripping, because of course it's a serious theme by the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank of selling assets, and there are several countries that rejected this process outright. The USSR, the Soviet Union then, and Russia today, and China, and both of them are doing very well. The Chinese companies working here, the ones building our own, these are public enterprises. Okay, so the logic, the Kenyans, what they need to question is, what is the logic of removing parliamentary oversight of a disposal of this asset? That's the number one. Number two, will there then be good faith in those transactions? And this is where I'm saying this country does not have an opposition, because this is when the opposition is expected to come out and say that any transaction entered by the state without the parliamentary oversight, it does not bind us. So if your new Kenyan government takes office today, tomorrow, or 100 years from now, it will not recognize those transactions. That will become a counter control when the parliament has ceded its power to the executive. But again, we don't have the opposition, we don't have parliament, so it looks like the executive now can strip us of our assets. Never mind that most of the countries that have made progress, whether it's Malaysia, these are the countries that's invested in state cooperations and made those state cooperations work for the people of Kenya.
So we don't have an opposition, because when we had also the Telkom and the Helios deal, it was under the administration of Uhuru Kenyatta, where Raila Odinga was also in the BBI arrangement then. So they cannot really have a voice also with this particular transaction right now. So who's going to speak for
the Kenyan people?
I think the winch again is politics, and I think there is danger in in the process of privatization of public institutions, and they become private, because we don't ignore the fact that when these institutions are become private, there is competitiveness, there is efficiency and all that. But sometimes it works well when there is a public participation in the management of these organizations. And I don't think the issue of opposition is affecting the whole process. But the Kenyans, we as Kenyans, the challenge that we have is that everything that happens is politicized. And for that reason, because of our selfish interest, when an issue like this one, you find that the parliament will be quiet, then the executive is left to, make their own decisions, and also the members of the public are also quiet. None of them, nobody is even so much interested, because the issue is that what am I going to benefit in the whole process? That's why you find there's a lot of a huge debate on development has really been actualized. Although there is that kind of linkage of working with the private and the public sectors, these institutions, we need to be cautious on the way we are. There is that hurry of privatizing most of them, and privatization is not bad where there is efficiency and competitiveness. But the whole challenge is, can we really trust those who are interested with those privatization of these institutions? When they get into management, are they going to become private entities? And how will the public going to receive the services of these institutions? Institutions like Telkom, it helps almost everyone, not almost all Kenyans. And it's a very, very basic necessity for connectivity, interactions, and all that. So when such an organization is privatized, it may look competitive, but it may affect on the other side because of exploitation. If left that without proper oversight by those who are elected by the public to be their representatives in the parliament and other organs that have oversight on the public institutions. So caution must be taken in the process of privatizations of these institutions, because it may affect negatively the members of public, because if this is overdone, then you find that the services are not going to be delivered effectively, and in the process of trying to get the competitiveness, you find there will be a lot of exploitation on the services, especially the basic services that are provided. The question might be taken, which ones should be privatized and which should not, and for what extent? How many shares should the government be having in this privatization process, or are they going to be individuals or shares and so forth? So I think caution must be taken so that members of the public are not really exploited in the process of privatization, and we see which can be privatized and which cannot, so that it have benefit to all members of the public.
Honorable Kipruto, I think you elaborated well when we had the Grand Regency, and of course right now it's like a hotel, and it being sold for a song, right? Through privatization, questions were being asked as well. We had KICC that was a big battle as well to just pry it from the hands of KANU during that particular time that it had been. But these are the questions that we need to ask. Sometimes when we have good intentions that we want to privatize so that we keep it afloat, but as interests are there as well, people want to make sure that these organizations also, they're not running efficiently, the share value and the capital value will actually diminish, then they will be bought for a song as well, because eyes will be raised why also some of the listed companies that the privatization bit was they're seeking to be listed at the Nairobi Security Exchange. Some of them are doing very well. Maybe they can actually even do exponentially well when they're listed. I do not know. But bearing the history that we've had and bearing also some of the regimes that have been there where some of these parastatals were privatized and they went into private hands at the end of the day, and ownership that our Kenyans have never really questioned or raised eyebrows. Right now, they're more informed. They're more alert.
The challenge with Kenyans is that they have very short memory for bad things. Why do I say that? Some of the billionaires in this town are people who ran down parastatals, bought them for a song, or sort of moved with the cannibalized the parastatals and became rich. And therefore there are people now we benchmark our aspirations on. I say that because if Kenyans had good memory, there are some people who should not even qualify to be given even head of state commendation, let alone any other decorations. But some of them have been almost decorated at the level of ministers or head of public service.
Yes.
That is what worries me. Number two, I just wanted to correct something. The bill had removed Parliament from getting involved in terms of privatization. But the current Act of Parliament, if you read carefully, Parliament has a role. The only problem is that the current Parliament has been emasculated to the extent that they will listen to what the executive does. My worry is this Telkom privatization, in the sense that the company that is alleged to have bought the shares in Dubai or wherever it is out of this country is said to have been formed 23 days before the transaction. That tells you there is a problem. Because if you are selling to a company that was formed even last month or even last year, you should be careful. What credentials does it have? How does it fortify itself? How does it qualify to come into a national asset?
Is it a special purpose vehicle?
Or is it a special purpose vehicle that somebody has formed from this regime? He goes to Dubai in one of these escapades, then he forms a company, then the company comes back to buy an institution like that. Because that has happened before and it will happen again. And the Kenyans are not alert to some of those challenges. I have a feeling that those in power today have a hand in that particular transaction. And it's unfortunate because we should be guided in a way that if, let's say, a parastatal is being sold, no single entity should be able to buy it alone. And if it was floated and there was good management, and many Kenyans had believed that this thing can, Kenyans would have bought, so that you get the same money, but you distribute the wealth of this nation. But really, something that we've had from independence about 60 years ago, now you give 60% of it to a foreign company, if it is foreign at all, it begs a lot of questions. It is unfortunate that businessmen are in leadership position. Anytime you take a businessman, whether to be a member of parliament, an MCA, or even a minister or a president, you run the risk of sabotaging your own intentions. Right. Because once businessmen have an opportunity, they think business, they don't think people.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. Let's hear from you as we wind up as well.
Allow me to correct that business people think about money and not people. I think the kind of business people that we have in this country, we have very good, well-meaning industrialists and people who really mean people in out of what they are doing. And we just need to allow business community, entrepreneurs to do what they know best and allow politicians manage what they manage best. That separation needs to happen in a very formal way. Privatization of such an industry is very crucial. You can imagine how robust the telecommunication industry is globally. And therefore, its subsectors, including the handsets that we see, the internet provision, landlines, the equipment and services that are aligned to all this. Any government needs to be very careful to see how this space is managed, devoid of corruption, devoid of, and learning from institutions like Safaricom, which has sustained 1.2+ million people in one way or another, and it's in its sustainability report, and just like Absa Bank has done that. So we need to allow that to happen in the best way possible. And we need to start thinking beyond whether it is owned by the government, whether it is individuals who will just want to make money. I hope that they can make money for the good of the country if it ends up in that way. We need to start thinking. We have 46 million people who have registered with Safaricom. These are line users, and therefore they have handsets. Most Kenyans will have 1 or 2 handsets in place. Who is producing these handsets in their millions? Who says that the big names that make telephones and handsets are the only ones who can only make such? Is it not the time that we need to start doing this locally? And if there are any efforts that are doing this, they need to be supported to the core, because that is how we transform our nation, because we need to check where are Kenyans taking their money. 46 million people who have registered in Safaricom and other lines, you can imagine how many they are, and associated business. We need to bring that money back home. We need to be able, because this technology is already grown. It's no longer something that is unique to the big names that we have in making this handset, and therefore to improve our economy. The openness at which we deal with the issue of privatization is what we need to deal with. For as long as we are struggling to even explain who owns the oil sector, who is the owner of this, and for as long as that openness is there will always be suspicion, which we must avoid at this time. And these are the hard decisions that I keep talking about. There is nothing wrong in the president doing business or a minister doing business, for as long as it is declared, because there is life before, there is life during, and there is life after politics. The only thing is to declare that I am in this, I have been doing this, or I have a partner that has been doing this, and therefore no suspicion. And we expect when Telkom is doing best, Kenyans will be doing better, because they can be able to produce more things, they can be able to give services that are going to be extraordinary.
Right.
And that applies to all the institutions of government. We must allow them to thrive, we must allow business people to do what they know best, and politicians manage the political bit of it.
Yes, I did not cast aspersion on all businessmen, because I always believe they are decent people, and there are people who make a difference in terms of that portfolio. But when people pretend to be leaders and they preside over certain transactions that are suspect, each one of us gets worried, because you are elected on certain platform of promises that you gave to Kenyans. Now when you get there, those promises that you wanted to change the lives of Kenyans for the better, you only better your own life. That is what worries me. And that is what I condemn today, tomorrow, and in eternity.
Thank you. Right, let's get your closing remarks as well.
What worries us more is the fact that some of these parastatals for privatization have national security implications. I mean, imagine in Telkom Kenya, everybody there has our data. Imagine the Kenya pipeline. Some foreigner controlling Kenya pipeline. Okay, he can do whatever he wants to do with us, so whatever owns that organization. So there's a big picture that needs to be put into consideration.
Right, let's hear from Keneki, your closing remarks.
Personal interest are the things that are making people maybe dwell on this matter so much. And I think if we follow our constitution to the latter, I think these things could not happen without a good reason. And the issue of privatization, it's good and it's appealing if it's done in the right way and the right manner. But the problem is when people are not declaring their interest, why these institutions or organizations or prestators must be privatized, then if there is an hidden meaning or hidden agenda, then that makes it very complex, and I think we should look into it so that now as we do the process of privatization, we be cautious on what prestator to be privatized and which should not, so that it doesn't affect most of the members of the public.
Right, Dr. Kalua, maybe also to get clarification, because there has been some videos of Greg Ferguson, who is allegedly called Greg Ferguson Mutua. We just have his picture as well, since he comes from, he is now the Speaker of the Canadian Parliament, the first black man to be the one in that particular part of the world. And people have said, looking at Greg Ferguson, he looks like a Mutua, and he's coming from Makueni County.
It shows actually the potential that Kenyans
of Kenyans when they're out of here.
The facial features.
When is the Kenyans out of Kenya?
From afar, it looks like Mutula Kilonzo.
When the Kenyans out of Kenya, they become
Kenyans, on a serious note, the number of Kenyans who are out there doing good work and are able to do much more.
I know.
And imagine if we brought them back home and gave them hope.
No, but we just wanted to get a clarification from you. Is it from your lineage?
I think what they're saying is correct.
No, I just wanted to get because it's been doing rounds as well.
He's
so
my
that
clansman. This is my clansman.
Anyway.
He comes from the Mba Mutei.
Mba Mutei.
Yeah, Mba Mutei.
Mba Mutei.
Yeah, serious Kenyans who are
from Mba Mutei
able to achieve anything on this world. But on a serious note, I think Kenyans have an opportunity to do much more. They just need hope. They need our leaders to do the right thing and stand and follow up with the best thing. But can you imagine the justice system in this country with what they have just done on logging and much more?
We need to wind up.
That is what needs to be done.
Thank you.
Kenya is a great nation.
Thank you. Right, time to wind up. Thank you so much. At least we're winding up the week on a lighter note as well. Thank you for your valued company. And Kenyans have a very buoyant spirit despite all the challenges as well. They always keep afloat. Have a lovely restorative weekend. We see you on Monday when we continue pace, of course, looking at what has been happening during the weekend. I want to thank our panelists, Dr. Isaac Kalua Green, who is a party leader of Green Thinking Action Party, also Kipruto Arab Kirwa, a governance and policy analyst as well. I want to thank you, Professor Gitila Naituli, who is a leadership and management professor at the Multimedia University, governance and policy analyst as well, and Professor Jonah Kindiki, lost man, found at last, wherever he was in that particular forest. We fished him out. He's back in the ray. And we want to thank you so much for joining us this morning as well. Thank you for your valued company as well. Enjoy the rest of the viewing. News updates.